You want me to trust you? Okay. There's even a remnant of a two-way street left. If you still trust that I'm trying to look out for you, then wait. I want some extra people in the office, around the clock for the next 72, just in case. Why?
He stole something dangerous and it's important that I get it back for it.
Why are you so sure it was him?
Call him if you want.
It's so annoying.
What is it?
You talking riddles and intuition. You never change.
Yeah. Sorry.
Testing.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Let's see where I'm at. All right, good. Well, everything good?
Yeah.
I'm looking over there. I'm looking over here on my desk for the file on my computer on that side of my computer screen. Weird. Let's see. Trying to find the document I was using. This day is not like I set out for it to be, but it's fine. It rained all morning. And so no outdoor stuff. But I'm getting a lot done. All right, let's see. This is it. All right. All right.
Have you sent me the email?
What's that?
Have you sent me the email with the outline yet?
Did I say I was going to send you some big bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
Let me look. So, oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll get it today.
Okay.
I got two files. One is sort of the, I put it together yesterday afternoon. One is sort of what I got for the draft, and one is notes and shit. I tried, and plus the outlines that I've got. Anyway, I thought it'd be better to, that I used, and I've got them as editable, hopefully as editable PDF thing. And what we're gonna need to do is set up the, I'm pretty sure you have a Chromebook, and so you should be able to use
Yes.
Google Notes online or something. I've never done it before, but I want to try to have a type, in a sense, that not that we're, a typewriter page that we're looking at the same time. Like, I've never done that before, but that's the goal of that. And so I'm gonna maybe later today look into how to do that, unless you know how to do it already.
I'm not sure beyond having the same Google Doc open.
Yeah. So let's experiment with that later on. Yeah, it'll probably go easier than the Zoom thing. All right, so yeah, and that 55,000 words of stuff, the notes or whatever I've got, reading that'll give you a bunch of hours.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. Which I told Professor Allison Berger about. All right, so where did we leave off? Oh, let's see. I think we were starting on the big battle. All right.
Yeah.
So yesterday when am I shouting or do you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, but if I'm shouting, tell me to. All right, when I was preparing that stuff for you yesterday, I was kind of looking at it because I hadn't seen it in a while. And kind of generated some thinking. At this point in the story, we're launching into the final, the mission completion portion, the what we've all been working for, so to speak. But there's some interesting parts to it, at least as far as you've read it. And it does pay to think about it, but we're about to launch into the big final battle. And it's like, I don't know, I don't remember the page count sort of thing, but I would say a significant percentage of the book is this one battle thing of Kong Zintian and Yan going, and rescuing or Kilver.
Yeah, it's about 1/3 of it.
Yeah, which is probably not the sort of thing the reader expects. Plus, the thing that we talked briefly yesterday about how the decision of how I just kind of the couple gets close, laying in a cot together, and they've got a plan to rescue care. They're giving, they all discuss this. They didn't think there was anything they could do about Becca. I think they're going to try. They knew that Kilber's going to get interrogated or executed at 1, again with the executions, and then at what's that?
It's at 10, not 1.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah.
Let's pin that one down. Make sure we got that right. Well, anyway, so we've got the Marauders I brought in as cavalry to the rescue. But here we have this big battle. And if you take, there are several streams going on at once. You got the Snowden, Harlow infiltrating the whatever place. Thing. You've got Siska and Marauders together, and you've got Harlow taking off on his own with Kong Zintian. So you got these three branches going on at the same time, but most of the story is basically the way I've got it set up was I used Kong Zintian's infiltration of the jail thing as the major part of the story, and then just interject it with updates on what's going on at the current moment with the other people, Harlow, Turgenev, and so on. It is a long story, and it is broken up with other things going on. But conceptually, it works from my point of view. Once we put up with what we talked about yesterday, kind of the monkey wrench being thrown in with, here you got the Marauders and Siska set up to do one thing. And I think, and it needs to be checked, but I think that Snowden knows about this and Harlow, they know about what those two are coordinating with, right?
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, you know, the main guy who everyone else is trying to help out, you know, by doing missions, um, disappears. Oh, you tell your uncle about me going off with Pong Zintian if you want to. You see what I mean? To me, it's, you know, and I can say I can say he laid there in bed and it struck him that he really, it just wasn't him to give up on this Becca thing. And that's what, and then he changed it. But see, I think you could improve it slightly by saying maybe in the final conversation between, um, you know, typically you got Harlow, the, you know, A-type personality who will kick it, bust his ass before he lets a woman do, you know, he's the man, and he's gonna not tell, he's gonna take it all on his shoulders and just go out, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, not misogynistic, but patriarchal, I mean. Anyway, I don't want to go in that direction. But we could fix it by maybe saying at that point, hey, look, this idea just popped in my head, which I think he does say something like that. I've been struggling with this all night. I've come up with this idea. Then he briefs the Maraud, you know, Uncle Jensen and the Marauders and that, and not just taking off. In other words, it becomes part of the plan to all the parties. And I think that the only reason it wasn't like that was just because I didn't think of it. But you know, I think it bears looking into. One of the other way to do it would be to, instead of, which is also a good, probably a good way to do it, is maybe when they go, oh, Becca's in jail and Kilber's gonna get executed at 10, right? Well, then we're gonna have to fucking go to the prison and get Becca, and you know, we're gonna go get him. You know, it's just not them to say, oh, yeah, I guess there's nothing we can do about that woman's problem that the mission,
Yeah.
and then, oh, well, we just want, because there wasn't a good way for them to solve it. But maybe Harlow raises his hand up at that point and says, there is a way we can get Becca, but I'm going to have to bring in some other people. And then it's not a surprise that he wakes up in the middle of the night. You know, it's all part, it just is part of the plan from the get-go. Now, what do you think of those two alternatives?
I like the one where it's raise his hand and I have this plan, but y'all might not like it, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, and it would be not, they might not like it. I mean, because of this Kong Zintian has such a bad reputation. It's like I said, it's like getting your worst enemy, you know, the enemy's my enemy friend thing, like that.
Yeah.
All right. So what I may go back and have to play it. Okay, because the other big thing I was thinking about yesterday at this point was that I want you to know, because I'll be discussing it coming up. The breaking into prison and rescuing Kilver part seems to be, you know, it takes up the most space, the most action. It's the center of the drama of the whole book. You know, I mean, this is like, and it doesn't have any of the original characters in it. The main characters are Kong and Cynthia and Yan doing all the work, so to speak. And of course, I got my Chinese names all messed up. Like, I can't know if it's Hu or Chu or what, but I gotta fix that too. Talk about different names. I didn't even try. All right, so anyway, that's the big, you know, but you know, don't you think it would make sense for the Marauders and Siska to be there in that prison and do, you know what I mean? Instead of Kong Zintian doing the heavy lifting. So, Now, here's what you don't know. All right. At the end of the book 2 that you have, it ends on a cliffhanger, right? Just like the first section did. And
Yes.
this cliffhanger was, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we can say a little bit about it here because I don't want to go into blow by blow detail on this battle. Oh, what was I saying? The
cliffhanger I hang on, my version ends on.
cliffhanger. The cliffhanger being Harlow's completed his mission. Snowden has been released in the comedy computer system. That movie. Anyway, I don't. Then Siska and the Marauders have rescued Kilver. Kong Zentian and his people did that, and they're running, you know, and they're running away, but they found out Becca's died. They haven't all joined up yet. Okay, now, but they're on their way to do that now.
It's a big truck going by outside.
That's all right. Yeah. So what you got at this point wasn't what I considered to be the original ending of book 2. In other words, book 2 continued on a little bit further. It went on to them joining up. And then there was a big battle where they're fighting Turgenev and blah, blah, blah. Turgenev and Harlow and Siska, I think, have a good guy, bad guy, face-to-face, tete-a-tete thing. That's the way it was in the original. Remember I told you the other day that there was this big ship, like a big tank, only bigger, and it came up out of the ocean onto the beach, and these dog-like things ran out of it. And
yeah.
What you'll see very shortly is that that becomes part of that meeting between them all, and then that battle is resolved somehow, and then they leave, they drive off. So there's a final. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, and that's still the way it's set up. It's just that instead of it ending book 2 after that final battle and driving off, which then left the opening of the third book on a rather unexciting note, you know. So because what'll happen is I'll tell you this: the chief and only reason the book ends where book 2 ends where it does now, on the cliffhanger we just talked about, instead of after that big final confrontational battle outside the city, is because I kind of like wanted to get it to Kirsten to edit, and I was thinking more and more about it and thinking like, well, right now, before any of this, book 3, the first chapter in book 3, I've got tentatively called Windswept Plains. Now, in other words, now you read The Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it was so Windswept Plains was going to be about 2 weeks later in the middle of the Australian outback. And then they escaped. They don't have any information from the outside world, and they're just hiding, waiting for orders, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
which is going to happen, but that was the way book 3 started. And then there's going to be right after that, they're going to get their orders. They're going to go to a meeting, which was going to be like that in the Lord of the Rings or Fellowship of the Ring, that meeting of the Fellowship of the Ring meeting. Remember that long, boring chapter where Elrond, no, it's called the Council of Elrond.
Mhm.
You can tell I was devoted to those books for a while, if I even know chapter names. All right, not dead yet. All right, so anyway, these are all so basically, when I thought about the fact that, well, opening book 3 in Windswept Plains and a meeting with, a big meeting like Council of Elrond, and then transitioning to where the book takes place is probably not the best way to start book 3, since it's got to start with action. We just ended on a cliffhanger. So that's why then I stopped the story short there with the completion of the mission. And then now this third book will start off, instead of on Windswept Plains, it'll start off on the run, the meetup, some bad things happen, and some good things happen. And then they're off. Then we do Windswept Plains, and then the big change occurs, and then the final story arc comes out. But I don't want to discuss book 3 till we're quite done with 2. But since 2 ended in like the way it did, I think it's very useful to think about why a book's, why it stopped here, what decisions I was going into, and all that crap.
Yeah.
So now there are various threads here. So you read this big long battle scene with the interjections. The thing to look for there is trying to keep in order all the parts and make sure they work. And I don't know if I've put some attention to it, but I'm not the best. It just seems to be a real tedious thing to sit down and make sure that time flow is accurately stated. So in other words, for instance, at the highlight of it, when Harlow's subway car smacks into the building wall, you don't want that to happen after they've already left the prison.
Yeah.
Anyway, someone needs to pay attention to that kind of a thing. But anyway, I tried, so we'll see. But did you notice anything like that? Did it flow well in general? I will make an exception anyway, but go on. I'd like to hear in general what you think of the ending sequence.
I think it did flow really well, but we get more of Kong and Harlow, and not as much Siska as the other two. That might be my only thing about it. Because we cut between those two more than going back to the Marauders and Siska.
Yes. Well, again, they're not doing much. It's sitting there waiting, to go. Yeah, I could throw in a few more things, and I might. Maybe a conversation with her uncle, filling us gap. Maybe. But also, I think I want to point out, saying that if at this point at the end of book 2, this is the big battle scene and all that, but this battle ain't over. And when they start with the meetup part, that's when the Marauders are really going to come into action, and they're going to be the main characters and all that shit for the final part of that. So you see what I mean?
Yeah, so it will have that good balance.
Yeah. It's just we ain't there yet, but yes.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, that's been the goal.
Okay.
And I don't want to go into, I will go into some detail on some things, but generally speaking, I don't want to go over the battle blow by blow. I mean, those are pretty straightforward sequences. People get they're not,
Yeah.
apart from some cool things here and there, or whatever. It's pretty straightforward mill sci-fi stuff, I'd say. I don't read military science. But... All right. Let's see where we're at. Yeah. Okay. The reason Yan is called Yan is because it's my years ago, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago, I was a lawyer and I was in need of a secretary. And so I had, anyway, and at the time I was like right now, but back then I was learning Mandarin on my own just because I sat down one day and thought, boy, I wonder how that works, because of the weird language and, you know. So anyway, so she came in and she was a Chinese American, and and so as we were talking, you know, she would help me learn Chinese. So okay, you're hired as my legal secretary. And she was the most loyal, you know, and you she still sends me 2 messages, or 2 or 3 at July 4th, Thanksgiving and Christmas. We exchange brief messages with each other. Anyway, so yeah, I could go on and on about her, but the cool thing is I never learned any Chinese from her, because whenever I try to talk to her with the Chinese, she'd say, I have no idea what you're even saying. Yeah, anyway, that didn't work. But yeah, she was cool. I like her. She got remarried. Oh, she got remarried and very happy. They live out in Seattle, but I don't want to see her again. You know, you can't go back after 20 years. Not that I'm going back to anything. It's just people change. All right. Anyway, so that's the Yan. Why we have the Yan character? It can change the name. Now, the most interesting part of this whole final section to me is the chess thing, where it goes, Kong Zintian was enjoying an old-fashioned game of chess. He was playing with his viz in a virtual reality game of Bryant Park, playing Street. And man, did I do research on this. I do chess every day in the morning for about 10 or 15 minutes doing chess puzzles. Hopefully some to, yeah, you know, in high, this is funny, but I can say it like this. When I was a sophomore or a junior in high school, I was asked to go to represent my high school at the Illinois State Chess Championship. I declined to go because a year before I had met my girlfriend and had quit playing chess. So I would have lost. I knew how the pieces moved, but that was about it. But when I was like in 8th, 9th, 10th grades, I was really one of the best in Jacksonville, and I could beat it, teachers, and I loved it. It was my thing. Anyway, so, and then here, you know, and occasionally my son and he'll beat me in chess, because I haven't looked at, you know, I kind of forget the strategy shit. You know chess at all?
I know the basics.
Anyway.
I'm no good at it. My 15-year-old brother can kick my butt.
Anyway, I find it fun. I'm making a giant, in fact, my beginning with 3D printing and all that is, and what I'm doing is facial scanning 3D real people, and then we're going to make their faces on giant chess pieces. Anyways, it's going to take a year or two to figure that out. Anyway, so I bought a 3D printer to start you know, and you can use my iPad 13 or whatever can scan faces 3D and then generate a data file and then 3D print it, you know, that kind of thing. And then put it on the only hard part is making the chess pieces, big ones. And I found out what I got to do is vacuum packed molding. Anyway, originally it was going to be lathing, but all right. So, but we will, and I'm also going to have, and we can tell readers and moviegoers this now who are watching this podcast through that we are going to have the world's only and possibly in the Guinness Book of World Records giant tri-level tri-D chess set. In other words, to the best of my knowledge, there is none other in the world. And I'm going to make the first one, and then I'm going to spend $6 and submit it to the Guinness Book of World Records, and then people can come out and play 3D chess. Anyway. That's why I was making those giant chess pieces, and I thought, well, would it be cool to put our granddaughter's face on the, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, we could do that. Anyway, and then things explode. All right, back to this. So chess, what I'm trying to suggest is chess is a part of our life, but I sat down with this chapter about Kong Zintian in like one sitting or two. It blew me away. I had to do some research, obviously. I did a lot of Wikipedia and chess site research on the great game and the history of whoever the chess player was, an American, I remember that, who played that game and the moves and so on. It's all valid shit. I mean, but the thing about that virtual reality game and all this, again, we're showing that Kong Zintian is a psychopath. Very brilliant. He's in the same league as like Turgenev as far as smartness, you know, brilliance goes, as well as, you know, being a 14K member, which remember I told you that's a real gang. If you look up on Wikipedia, you'll see a bit of a blurb about an Australian Chinese crime gang called, you know, that's been around since the 50s or 60s. So I'm presuming they're going to be around 25 years from now. Anyway, so so the way I'm showing that he's smart, you know, he's into culture a little bit because in a previous chapter, I just showed him getting, you know, having a good bottle of scotch. Again, I've got scotch drinking friends who are really into spending a lot of money on this shit. So I know to go and look up, you know, well, what would be a good, you know, a world-class scotch, you know, 25 years from now. So I go on and do the research and come up, pick one and, you know, might be the ticket. So he kind of got some class, or he's into that culture stuff, but he's smart too. Chess, also a cultural thing. Like Turgenev was the smell of leather-bound books. Now, so the game he's playing here, the American Paul Morphy and the consulting partners of Duke Carl II and all that, that's all real stuff. I just bumped into it in my research. You know, I thought it was kind of like this. Okay, I want to have Kong Zintian. For some reason, I want him playing chess in New York Central Park in the 70s, just like in those old TV shows where they're wearing, you know, the patch pockets, and you've seen them, you know.
Yeah.
Typically, it's like it's Sunday afternoon in this Central Park. Anyway, so what I did is Google Earth, Google whatever, I got in there and I looked around. So when I say, for example, behind him were the narrow windows of the rear facade of the New York City Public Library main branch. Overhead, a smattering of shade from the London plane trees defended him from the stifling late afternoon New York sun. Now, how did I know those were London plane trees, spelled Plane? Research. Believe it or not, So, you could write the sentence as behind him, was the New York Library building or the black iron fence of the library, and then shade from the nearby trees, defended him from the sun. But if you go in there with that detail of the London plane trees, the main branch, the only people who would give a shit would be a reader who lived in New York who knew that there's a difference between the New York City Public Library main branch and the regular other branches.
Mhm.
Now, is that necessary? Again, I guess the reason I'm throwing this detail in there is just, well, it's the way I do things, I suppose. But also it could be taken out if an editor that I believed in said, you don't really need to go on that kind of, okay, we'll put that in, we'll keep it in the director's cut and put it in the one you're working on. So, and the narrow window, anyway, I'm just describing what I'm seeing in the Google Earth photo. Then I'm describing in my own words the history of this interesting chess game that everyone calls, whatever I call it, the greatest game ever, which wasn't actually the greatest game. So anyway, we go into this rather lengthy shit. I mean, it goes on and on about where he lived and blah. Again, I guess my excuse for putting that detail in is the same as before. We can take it out. But I'm showing that this is the kind of shit that Kong knows. I mean, this is not just the writer. This is inside the character's head. This Kong Sentian, this, psychopathic genius gang leader, cares to go to visit Morphy's house someday in Mississippi or something, you know what I mean? And he knows all this stuff. Another thing I bumped into in the research was that word Zugzwang, that I call the chapter. And I thought, well, this I can use. I just bumped to it in the research. I'd never heard of it before. And it said German for forced move. It's your normal thing where, there's no good choices, So the optimum solution is just picking the least worst thing. Well, we all felt that way about life from time to time. Anyway, so and I was able to talk about that, and then I used the word a couple of times in the future to help tie it all together, which I think works for me.
Yeah.
There was a part in this. Let me see if I can find it. Just give me a second. Yeah, this chapter, or this paragraph 2 up from the simple list of chess moves that go boom, boom, boom at the end. But 2 paragraphs above that, it starts off like this. Several moves later, Kong was all but rubbing his palms together. White's queenside castling at move 12 begins the shock and awe that will lead in 5 more moves to the end of the game. The castling brings White's queenside rook to prominence. Rooks are the heavy artillery of chess. This rook will be sacrificed for the knight, appearing to be a losing gamble. White's bishops are deployed, eager to slice like swords from their opposing sides of the board. Now, sometime later, I read that paragraph and I was like, what? I must have copied. I mean, to me, that is like keeping that military metaphor going within a description of the chess game using words like slicing swords, the heavy artillery of chess, shock and awe, which Bush used with this description of the invasion of Iraq. So anyway, when I read that later on, I'm going, I must have stolen this paragraph from some plagiarized. I think it is very well written anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, God, I might change gamble to gambit, but I think gambles or losing. Anyway, and then I guess what I would say here is that sometimes the writer goes into these tangent things. Like I said, doing the research. Well, if you're gonna have New York Game Chess, Central Park, Google Maps, then we go, okay, they're playing a game. Any particular game? I could have made a game up. No, let's pick the kind of do some educational material here. What's the greatest game ever played? Then Zugzwang popped up, and then brilliant writing appeared. Now, because of that one paragraph, I want to keep the whole thing in there because I like that paragraph. But to have that paragraph in there, I got to kind of keep the rest of it. Anyway, that to me is the only real interesting part of you have anything to say? Next
I
one.
like having the chess in there. It's a good
What?
break from what we're used. I
Oh.
like having the chess in there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a pause. Well, then we do Yan at the door with her attack. I took a year of Krav Maga, which is the Israeli art of self-defense, sort of like karate. And that's one of the reasons why my hand and shoulder are all messed up, but that's another story. But I use a lot of that also with not just this fight, but the one later on toward the end when Harlow is fighting that guy and gets stabbed. You know, they're having that big fight. The description of that fight is drawn from a lot of my Krav Maga crap. So basically, I kind of knew the kind of moves one would do with martial arts, and so I kind of looked at if you go to the right places online, you can find videos about doing certain things like in knife fights. Then you can see what's going on and describe it better, rather than just making some shit up. Like he threw a left jab followed by a right roundhouse. Anyway, so bit of that. So I think the particular movements within the fight sequences are fine. All right, obviously getting into the prison is tough. And it takes them a long time to and they got anyways. Is there anything you want to say about anything about the tactics or the method of them inside the prison? Is they're breaking through the booth and all that stuff. I let Khan let the guy go.
It's a very good, it's very descriptive and goes into a lot of detail. As for accuracy of military tactics, I can't speak on that at all. I don't know military tactics myself.
Yeah,
So
I do. That all fits.
yeah.
Although I made up the drones and pop up hand grenades and stuff. I've made a few new tools.
Yeah, but it all flows really well together, and it does look and sound like you know what you're doing, and the author is knowledgeable as well as the characters know exactly what to be doing in the drill, and it's well thought through.
Yeah, it went through, and it's a real lengthy thing. Let me see anyway, the whole battle thing is lengthy, and it went pretty fast for me. Anyway, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail on it. And the other stuff, the only thing I really want to, unless we bump into some logic flow problem or something, I don't want to go into too much detail on that. I do believe the interaction or the breaking up of the bank or the jail attack with the Harlow mission and what's happening with the Marauders and like I haven't given that a lot of thought about the appropriateness of interrupting it here or there. You know, those can be moved around if they need to be. You know, we can move pieces around. In fact, that basically when I wrote this, I just put insert Harlow at the railway or insert Kong at the thing, you know. And then I wrote those all separate and then I cut them up and pieced them in. I don't know if that was but they were separate stories on their own. And then I just kind of chopped them up and then pieced them in where I thought they should go. But
I
really,
I think it flows really well.
It seems to me, but again, I know I'm like the god of the story. It really pays. Anyway, so I know all the stuff, and so I don't know how a regular reader's doing. I just can't do it, obviously. What I call generally forest for trees issues. All right, I think I left that heading in there as one, the little, maybe a chapter heading. Is there one that says, I've been down on my knees praying things I don't believe? Yeah, Mr. Wives decided to be happy. You should look, that song is really cute, man. And that band, Mr. Wives, is, I'll send you some links. They are independent, New York City band. The extremely clever and talented musicians, out of the box thinkers, but they know how to put a good, still make it accessible, good. Anyway, yeah, Mr. Wives, excellent. But I like that phrase, like you're so, things are so bad, you're finding religion here. I'm down on my knees praying things I don't believe.
Yeah,
I'm so desperate.
It is good.
Yeah, it's a good line. So
yeah,
I think I do that with another Jonathan Allison Weiss song. Anyway, so there is a sacrifice made. I kill off Huang. Oh, there's a chapter I got here, 36 or so, called Elysian, Allision. That word I bumped into. Oh, you don't probably have chapter names.
I do not have chapter names.
It's Elysian, which I found to be an interesting word. It means, I think, the same thing as collision, only it's a word no one ever uses. But it's a real, it's not. Anyway, so I thought I'd use it. That's all I thought. Sometimes I think writers have to care about the words they use, and the more words you know. Do you take the time to look up words you don't know when you read them?
Yes.
Yeah, it's important to do. Or sometimes I'll go like, how the hell? I've never seen this word before. I've probably read it 1,000 times, and never noticed it. And then now I'm noticing it. It's a little bit odd, but it's one that, anyway. All right. Do you have any comment on Snowden's execution of his mission inside the jail or wherever he is, top secret?
His part in the jail or his mission?
His mission, like where he's dropping in from the ceiling. Basically,
yeah.
He's gone up on a subway car that I mentioned in the first visit there, where it goes up. It's called the Skyway, and it follows the dome tracks.
Oh, you're talking about Harlow. Okay. You said Snowden, confused me a bit. I liked having his parts with the action and he has that split moment of indecision or wishing he did things differently, but then still goes all in even after that.
Hmm.
And he has a little bit of fun with it too.
Yeah, I think it works. You know, it's okay. I think obviously, so, boy, my computer is beeping like, this thing, it just ping, ping, and I don't even know why. And I look around like, why are you, I used to know why. See, it
Is
just,
it are you jiggling the charging cord in and out of it at all as you move?
no, but that is, I'm just gonna disconnect it, and then it wasn't charging anyway, because anyway, I won't go to it. So, I think what I want to say here is that the Texan set the mission up, and he had, and I went back and I had the part about, and you know what, that's come up just recently in the news. I copied the link, 2 links I was going to send you of news stories that relate to this book or technology in the book. The one you hear about this, like, fuck, I don't know, 75-mile long Saudi Arabian city they're going to make. It's like they're going to make, instead of a skyscraper, it's like as long as a train track with people
Huh.
on both sides of the track with, anyway, and which was sort of like an experimental dome city sort of thing. Anyway, so anyway, we know the Texan had set this up with putting some hardware stuff on, that would then wait for, a few probing bits of bytes coming through. So generally speaking, I did not do as much research with the technology here and like how I did a little bit of research on it, but I really am kind of just not interested in that for some reason. The highlight, whatever, but how I do it. Now, hopefully it works, like it makes sense. But yeah, and I think it does based on my little bit of stuff. Now, what was that? So basically, I'm done talking about the battle, or I don't have anything more to say about it. But unless you want to say anything about the knife fight sequence, or but basically they all did their mission. Do you have anything to say about Kilber's rescue or what?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I just think it all kind of went pretty straightforward, as one would expect.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a lot to say about them, except for the parts that I really liked and why, or ones that had a lot of decisions to make along the way. So I'm just going to shift a little bit. So I think you should have isn't there, like, we're inside the computer, we're looking at it from Snowden's point of view within the computer, right?
Yeah. With the
All right.
little poem.
Oh, God. A little poem.
Or at least it's set up like a poem.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah. It's Snowden yearns to spread his wings, to fly among the heavens, to hurtle downward, pierce the fractal fluidic surface of the Magia, plunge into its warm waters of infinite data.
I don't
Yeah,
have that
that.
here. I would have to find the text. All right. It sounds pretty good. Anyway, the point is that we do the insertion, he gets in the computer, and now, it's like a building opening, you know, like we would be inside a building. Okay, where are we going to go, so to speak? Now, do you remember from back in the day, they made two movies? Tron, that was it. Did you ever see the movie Tron?
Yes.
I think there were two of them. Or at least,
Yeah, there was an older one
yeah.
and then
Which
a
one did you see?
newer.
The Jeff
I
Bridges or
I think I've seen both of them.
yeah. And I like them okay. I like the second one better than the first one, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't remember too much about them. Just any reason I even care about them at all is that here, you know, you're trying to have humans see what's in a computer. You know how you get the problem.
Yeah.
And of course, it works. You just got to take it with the, you know, for what it is. I missed. All right. So what I've done here with Snowden, I'm seeing that he is now evolving. What we have already, I think at least what I'm trying to get across is that what we've seen is just a little bit of them kind of getting, you know, logistically tasks done is now hooking up with the rest of them. The the worm becomes a butterfly, so to speak, and then that is multiplied again. So there's now,
Mm.
at least the way it's going to end up. I don't know. I haven't read that part. I think I wrote that a month or two ago. I don't remember it. And just to get it ready for Kirsten. So, but I think I've got it so that he gets in there, evolve, and then multiplies. But it's
Yeah.
not, but they're not clones. They're each they're each unique in the
Yep.
sense like DNA would have made the babies all different. Yeah, but he's replicating himself, and so but he's also doing this high, you know, behind the scenes, so the rest of the system can't tell he's doing that. Um, so you know, the point is, I think it's silly to try to make any kind of a metaphor here with his experience of being within the hardware of the computer. Especially these are quantum computers, and maybe I could mess around with that a little bit, but I think it works out as far as I wanted to. I don't want to go back and readdress that issue. So, how do you think this issue of Snowden in the computer worked for you? That
I like having the description of what he's doing, how he's evolving, and um come on, brain, think of things. I like being able to see the way he's developing and reaching out beyond what we've already seen of him and the potential that it does introduce us to while we don't see it all yet.
yeah, um, and there's a lot more. There's not a lot more that has to be done. Now, do you remember? Do you have anything in your information about Natalie LaRue? Did I mention her? Does Snowden around that area mention her at all?
No, there's no mention.
Okay. All right. Well, Natalie, just so you know, Natalie LaRue, again, a name I think is cool that I bumped into. So, who's that French actor? Oh, there's a French actress who I think has one of the most beautiful names. You know, it's like Sado or something. Somebody Sado. And it's spelled like Sudeux or something. I mean, it's just awesome. Anyway, can't use that one. Anyway, Natalie LaRue is a another person like Snowden, and I think the idea was that Dirk provided hidden away on that thumb drive for this purpose as a gift or whatever, created Natalie LaRue, who's this like a woman Snowden, that he can fall in love with and have kids with, electronically. I've written about this. I just don't think I think that's going to be toward the end when we find out that. All right. So, okay, so that's Natalie. I think we're pretty much done with book 2, leaving it on a cliffhanger. So, big battle. At the end of this book, Harlow is got to get Snowden to help him exfiltrate the city, wounded, but he'll make it.
Yeah, the end of the last sentence in my copy is just, but right now Harlow and Siska needed him.
Right. What does it say?
It's just the right now Harlow and Siska needed him.
Needed who?
Still in the Snowden chapter. Snowden.
All right. So, so we're done with book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking. Now, book 3. You've already heard. You want to go for another bit yet?
Yeah.
Make up your okay. All right. So here's my plan for book 2. I found it very useful to go over this. I think over time I'll get the transcript all done and cleaned up and stuff like that, and the videos organized and all that stuff. They'll be put up on a website or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sell or Patreon. Anyway, we'll try to do something with it, not just for ourselves. If it can make money, I ain't gonna do it. Sorry. But but the whole point is, I think that if I was a new writer or curious about writing, I would do this. And we can continue doing, I mean, this could be made into a podcast, which I might do. It's up to you. But it just popped into my head. See, I'm an idea guy. I come up with at least 5 good ideas each day, but I never get any of them done. I also implement good ones. So it's not, but it just appeared. All right. So the next step is, well, there's 2 parallel things you can do to get your hours in. And that would be to continue, and I think it would be useful to spend some time doing the subtext app stuff. I'll get, you got to read about it. And I'm going to, like I've told you before, I've got some material.
Yeah.
Original story form Dramatica stuff. But I promise I will put something together that can lead through quickly and efficiently, get the idea of it. Because I'll tell you, it's complex shit. But I think it certainly deserves some time spent on it. And I think that it could prove very useful. And if it is a useful tool, it could save a lot of the conceptual and planning work for books.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I'm the first one to be skeptical of tools like this. You can get online and say, I want writing software, and they'll sell you these things that do pretty much what Scrivener does. Divide the text into chapters. And then they add stuff for like character. Here's where you put your character descriptions. Here's where you put your plot. Some of the software for writing tries to even tell you, like, all right, here's the plot for the novel type, romance genre. All right. And you just fill in the blanks, and the AI can write the story for you, basically. That's where it's coming. They've already got, anyway, we don't have to worry about that shit yet. But what I'm saying is that this is that Dramatica and that subtext app, I think, would be really cool. Because I think if you got that and clicked and one used it, once they understood it, used it, then it would really speed the process up. And you could at least diagnose other problems and stuff and make you aware of things and so on. So anyway, I'll tell you, it is interesting. But even the reason I gave up on it is I'm trying to write a book, and at the same time I'm trying to learn this stuff. You know, it was one or the other, and I just had to say, if I don't write this book, it'll never get written. And here we are, you know, 5 or 6 years later, still plugging on. But the collaborative writing part's next. So here's what you go. And I think it all makes sense. We have just collaboratively, and what I was jokingly calling the intervention editing process, right?
Mhm.
And at this point, apart from me, you are the most knowledgeable person in the universe, in our known reality or any other multi-reality. You know more, as much about this book as almost as much as I do. There's an award for that. I think you knew what you're going to get. I'm just doing. So anyway, so just do. I think what would be really cool is to continue on this process, and it just appeared to me we can do it as, or at least try. Now, what we're going to do here is not, wouldn't be cast in stone or anything like that. We got to get some hours in, and this is the way to do it in a fun way. And it's just one of those things that no one can really count these sort of hours. So what we'll do is, I think, if you want to, I'll send you that 55,000 stuff, which is basically what I've got written of book 3, which isn't done. I've got an outline for it, which is general, but useful. But that was written a couple of years ago when I failed on the second day of walking or hiking the AT and had to quit, leaving my son-in-law to continue on without me. I went back to the hotel room and wrote the outline to book 3. Anyway, I blame hypothyroidism for that. I did manage to do the AT the previous year. The boy, when that was like, yeah, it was awful. I couldn't do it. It was hard anyway. But yeah, I had to quit. Yeah, way to show my son-in-law how healthy I am. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, book 3. So I'll send you this stuff. It's changed. Anyway, I was going to say is the outline is very generic, and this thing can go in various directions. But one of the big issues later on down the road is what to do with Siska's sister, Isla, I guess her name is at this point. But I've got about 2 months, about 2 months ago, when I realized that, got cursed and I thought, well, I better start thinking about this again. So I've come up with some pretty cool, crazy shit ideas to do with Siska's sister, but not exactly pinned down, but just some sci-fi concepts I read about in the news. It blew my mind about what they were doing. I'm like, oh yeah. But whenever I find out one of those things, then I take it to, then we got to think about taking it to the next more cool level. All right. Anyway, but I think at least the part we could get done, then you can make a decision about whether you wanted to continue on or not. But we can end up working on the process of the old end of book 2, start of book 3, which was the joining back up together, and then leaving the city part. Just focus on that. All right. That's a lot of that is already written, but it's all chopped up in pieces, and I haven't looked at it in 5 years or whatever. But I think but we're still open to whatever the hell you have to say, because Jim, you have assured me that you are one of the finest fantasy writers and
No.
but it never hurts to try. So anyway, so I've always writing again. I'm saying this for the viewing audience. Writing is always considered to be a solitary process, you against the typewriter kind of thing. But of course, occasionally, writers are able to work together. It's rare, and it's rare that when it works good. But some writers are able to find someone that they would work along with, like Kevin J. Anderson and Frank Herbert's son, doing all those Dune books I was telling you about. They're collaborative. Of course, everyone's going to have their own way of working collaboratively. Like, what does that mean? You could approach it as, all right, we're going to write this chapter. I'll write my version, you write your version, we'll compare, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know how. And ego sometimes plays a part, but not with me. And then but the point of it is, from my point of view, number one, I feel like about 2 years ago, I was going to give up on this, and I was trying hard to find a ghostwriter to finish it up for me. And the reason I was going to do that is because I felt that my dad was dying of Alzheimer's, and in fact is dead of Alzheimer's. And I was feeling like I was getting it too. And I thought, well, man, I'm just not as sharp as I was, 5 or 10 years ago. And I don't even know if I can do it anymore, And I got really worried, and I think Siska's owed, so to speak, to have her story told, Just like some authors say, it's not my story. Steve King will say, I just sort of type the story, just, comes out of somewhere and goes through me. And that, and that's called the flow, which is rare for me, but when it works, I love it. But I can't make it happen. But I don't need it either. But anyway, that is, but for the last many years, several years, I run, lift weights. I did have health problems with my hand and my shoulder, but I'm back. I feel like since I've moved here and working on this farm, I've come up with, my mind has gone full blast with ideas, and I'm studying, I feel mentally fine again. I don't feel like I can't do it. And nor do I want to give up on it either. Like I said, we're almost done. Fuck. Even if, I could say, well, at least I wrote a book. In fact, I wrote 2 of them, in addition to my dissertation that neither I nor my professor read. No, I'm just kidding. But no. Yeah. See, you could have a book on a shelf with your name on it, and that's kind of motivating. And I thought, well, I've done that. I can quit. But, the story ain't over. The arc is, if I stop now at the end of book 2, so it's got to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we could do is I'll give you the rest of it, the whole shebang shoot match stuff. But like you read it. It's going to take you many documentable hours to read all that shit. Okay?
Probably.
And then we'll set up the collaborative writing thing, and we'll start. What I think would be good as an experiment, and I'll do some. Think about how you'd like, if you're even comfortable with the idea, or we'll just sit down and we'll work in that section. We'll record it like we're doing now, our discussion about what decisions we're making about writing these chapters. And basically, it's like I paid that right. You know, I told you about those guys, a self-publishing podcast. That I paid $100 to watch them write a book in a month. You know what I mean? I think I mentioned that before. That was okay, but this is what I wanted. I think it'd be kind of kick-ass to try that and see if it works. And just work in that section from the escape, the big final battle, and exiting up to, and then we can decide what to do after that. You could say,
Okay.
I'm in or out, but it would give us something to use up your hours with. And we'll just keep this up. I think even more interesting than our intervention editing is how a live collaborative writing thing. How do these authors come up with this chapter? And this is like the live debate going on. Then I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and put that sentence in there then if you insist on it. Anyway, I'm just joking. Or you spend that night writing up a paragraph or something and shooting it. Believe me, it just doesn't matter. I have no idea if you can write or not. I have no idea if I can write or not. It doesn't matter. The point is we sit down and do it.
Mm-hmm.
See what we come up with. And that's a narrow focus thing. And like I said, a lot of it's written. It doesn't have to remain that way. And a lot of it hasn't even been looked at for years. So I have no idea really. And also, we got a few minutes yet, maybe. You know what I was gonna say?
No. You froze. There you go.
Hey,
now you're back.
It came back up on its own. I didn't even have to do anything.
Nice.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that Hello, testing. Testing. Okay, live transcription has been enabled, but it's not. Oh yeah. How do I get it to show?
There should be something along the bottom that says subtitles or transcript. Like the CC live transcription, you can click on that and view full transcript.
Yeah, there seems to be a gap, like the icon right there where that thing would be is missing. I'm gonna try to redo it or something. Testing. Yeah, okay, it's back. I turned it off and back on.
Okay.
Or I turned it on, but it came on. All right, so, oh yeah. So you're still at a point where there's a lot of input you can have on the way the story goes, even toward the end. The way you'll basically, just to give you a nutshell of what I kind of remember going on is that I know originally I was going to have Harlow escape out of the city completely by running along an old service tunnel that was falling apart. But basically, when the city was constructed, they had to build a railroad from the seaport, like 5 or 6 miles away, the city. And there's obviously tunnels and shit. And he's getting out again. I had to have something there, but we already had the other subterranean tunnels, the catacombs. Anyway, he's leaving now. On the other hand, Harlow. Let's see. Harlow had left. Do you remember the name of his vehicle attendant? Iris, isn't it?
Yes, Iris.
Iris has kind of been upgraded by Snowden. I think he kind of upped his. It's a minor point, I think, but you'll notice Harlow had expressed some surprise at her, and that's because Snowden, when he was visiting with her, had improved her. Let's put it that way. That's what I was thinking. It's not even a point worth mentioning. Anyway, but I think there was some goal of getting back to the vehicle and getting out. But remember, it's an autonomous vehicle, and I think I should just have her leaving on her own, just starting up her engines and booking. She had also been instructed if anyone got on board to blow up, self-destruct. Anyway, so she's going to be leaving the city on her own, with gunfire. The Marauders have to get out. Basically, they're going to be fighting the cops and Turgenev's comedy attack people on the way out of the city. And that battle will continue on outside the city. Remember, they've turned off, or Anungu 7 is off, so there's no spy satellite observation going to happen over Australia for a while. So that'll help with their escape. Now, I think I had it so Kilber, there's a battle. I'll just tell you now, Kilber dies. They bury him. I've got that. And a lot of this stuff I've written up from that previous book I told you about. The kind of militia patriot thing with Gary Grant and all that in there.
Yeah.
Some of that's some of that stuff's in there, and it sounds real. Some of the language is stilted. Anyway, worry about that later. And then I had a confrontation where Turgenev shows up and they do a good, like in a movie, the big confrontation thing. And I think I had it originally within the catacombs. I was having one of the very early concepts discarded quite a while ago, but when I was first thinking about Siska book, was that when they were escaping, they were going underground, like in the catacombs still, but instead of pretty much being empty except for this street urchin sort of girl, there was going to be like some I call them like a hidden horde or something like that, who we would kind of look at as the escaped slaves who are now hiding like rats beneath the city, and you know what I mean? Homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
You would have that, but these were more militarily, or like they were not just existing, they were gonna have their own plots. Like maybe one night we're gonna go in and slit everybody's throats. So, that kind of, anyway, kind of like a servant rebellion.
Yeah.
But then, so that basically that was gonna, but I ended up using the Marauders to come in and take their place. And I just didn't want to go there with that whole thing. I'm just letting you know that was thought of. So anyway, the escape. We got and then a big battle, and I was gonna anyway. The reason I mentioned that is that Turgenev was backing up or something like that, and then that horde came out and grabbed him and pulled him back within, and kind of like tore him to pieces in revenge. Anyway, that's not happening because, all right, broad strokes, but I want to tell you what you're going to find out in reading that stuff. All right. Also, in that final battle shit, the big climax, what do you think has been left out? What needs to be reconciled before the end? I mean, plot wise, not book wise.
The two girls you said we were gonna come back to.
Yeah. But in particular, it's Harlow and Siska. So what happens is Harlow's wounded. It looks grim. He might die. And then that gives him a chance to get closer. And then of course there's a comical bent to it. You'll see. Anyway, so we got Siska and Harlow getting even closer. He's wounded, nurturing mother, you know what I mean? That brings them closer together, especially when she thinks he might be dying. Anyway, so there's that, and then Kilver dying, you know, there's a lot of grief there. And then Turgenev escapes because we'll see him again. Next up, they escape, they go up to the outback somewhere, and I've got that all mapped and geo-earthed and historically beautiful. Some of the in Windswept Plains I like part. Did you say you read Dark Tower, at least some of it?
At least the first one.
No, you didn't read. Okay, well, anyway, one of the things in the drawing somewhere, the main character gets a pet Australian dog, one of those dingoes. You know what a dingo is?
Yes.
All right. So when on the Windswept Plains, we're out there in the outback for a couple of weeks, you know, just lurking about in the middle of the desert, oasis kind of thing. They bump into a wild dingo and they give it a name and it hangs around, just like happened in Dark Tower. Somewhere in the Dark Tower series, there's a Jake and a little dog, a little dingo. So there's going to be a dingo in the rest of the book. See, now you might go, why? Well, I think having a dog in the story gives you something to talk about in the same way with the cigarette and the drink stuff. You'll have the dog to interact with, and of course, the conversation as well as, see what I mean? It'll be a good technique. Also, the little homage to Dark Tower, one of my favorite books. I like dogs. I don't have, anyway, so also one of the best books I ever wrote or ever read was about a dog, man. They even made a movie out of it. It was it was about a dog who was made in a science laboratory to be real smart, and he could talk with letters from one of those games, crossword puzzle games.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, I read that book, and I'll tell you, it's delightful. It's on my list of all-time favorite cool books. Anyway, it's just a fun little book because he does a real good job of the dog thing. What else is going on? And anyway, I haven't written anything about the dog. I just came up with the name and the fact that there would be a dog in it. All right. Okay. So they Windswept Plains. Kilver's dead and buried, which is a good thing because he lost Becca. So Uncle Jensen's lost his good friend. Guess what? Kong, Zintian, and Yan, they're not going back to the city. They're coming along with them. So we're adding to the crew. The Fellowship of the Ring is growing. There may be a few of the others and the others in that. Anyway, they're going to leave for now. And I think in the future, Kong Zintian will get anointed and become a LS type like Carlo. If not within our book. All right, next. They get a message right in Windswept Plain that they're going to meet Dirk. That was the big meet. Remember I said there was Elrond's meeting chapter? So
Yeah.
Dirk is no longer going to be in the whatever I call them, prequel thing. He's now he's going to meet the main characters and be at the main timeline of the book. Guess what? Remember I told you that Dirk is peripatetic? Wanders.
Yes.
Well, he's gone from, remember he went off on a Trans-Siberian Express. Then when he formed his company, they had their company on a train. So instead of being a company in a building or working out of their own homes like they do today, they're just all on a train that drives around the world, stopping. And isn't that a cool idea?
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
sure somebody has done that. But anyway, so the company's location is a moving train when he's making Snowden. But now he's back. And guess what he's got for a vehicle today? Well, it's a converted cargo liner, one of the biggest ships ever made with the, right? That
Yeah.
got it all converted into well, what would the world's richest man have for well, not the world's richest man, but you know what I mean. So he's got this cool yacht, mega yacht from a converted cargo ship. And instead of roaming land now, he's roaming the oceans. And see, so it all makes sense with the character arc, right?
Yeah.
Whatever Dirk does is he's always appreciates moving, probably from being stuck in a bathtub during a nuclear war. Maybe he'll also have to Christian. This is where we talk, and you come up with, and you go to me, Mark. If he's going to continue peripatetic mode, his next vehicle should be a spaceship. To go, yes. At the end of the book, he's going to have his own starship being worked on.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little sentence or two that just popped it. But see, that's part of the collaborative work is synergizing. You got to think of good ideas too. I might do all the talking, but I don't want to. I'm just right now trying to explain some of the things that. Anyway, at this meeting, we'll have Dirk there. We'll have Eloise's wife. We'll have, and they'll just be meeting in his office, so to speak, with everyone you'd expect, Uncle, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll be a bit of a briefing. Remember, every book has to kind of catch up the reader with what happened before, even if we presume they read it before, you still have to put a little history update in there. So that will happen here. And then a few horrible things are going to happen at this meeting. Maybe. All right. One thing is they get the news from Snowden that Tarabulga has been destroyed. It was self-destructed by Turgenev and killed everybody inside it. Not exactly true, but that was my first concept.
Oh.
The city will be partially destroyed in a self-destruct sequence by Turgenev, which is a rational decision on his part because as we discussed a day or so ago, remember how this, from Turgenev or Comedy's point of view, this weapon is like an atomic bomb going, you know, he's got to do everything he can to stop it from spreading. It's like a virus, you know, and it can just destroy the empire, right?
Yeah.
So even the empire say you have the, you know, and so his self-destruction of the city is to him a rational act to prevent the spread of the Snowden virus. In other words, he's blowing up every computer in the city. However, he is somewhat defeated because Snowden, the computer virus, is now fully loaded, right? And so he's going to go around where you can imagine basically what I got. The city perimeter and about they have set up these tactical nuclear weapons, just like they do in the science fiction stories about spaceships and Kirk and do self-destruct. Well, the city has built-in self-destruct systems. Remember Experimental City, spaceship? Anyway, it's going to have the capability of being self-destructed from a central command location like a space day or a spaceship would have, right? So to avoid the Turgenev, to avoid the spreading, hits this, he of course isn't in the city. he's flying away, and then he does the self-destruct. Snowden is in there, sees the order, works like crazy trying to stop these tactical nukes from going off. He's got, let's say, 5 minutes. I haven't thought about it very much, but this is where it's going. He's got 5 minutes to stop all this. And he's in a fucking computer. How does he do it? Well, he's jumping out of he's sending his code out of the computer into let's say a robotic vacuum cleaner, bite, and then it roams across the corridor over to the other side and goes into a machine, you know what I mean, and it gets over, you know what I mean.
Yeah, he spreads.
There's some kind of crazy problems that Snowden has got to solve. He's got to be in like 5 different places at once. He does manage to shut off, let's say 4 out of 5, but one does go off and the city's ruined. But most of the inhabitants have survived, including the ones we still care about. Whatever name is the catacomb and the little girl that Dora, yeah, they're still alive. But see, at the point when Dirk gets this news to Siska, what is she just goes fucking, because she doesn't know who survived now. All they know is that Tara's been destroyed. And we don't have exact data, let's say. And maybe I have to have a reason for that. But she now blames Harlow and his fucking mission for the killing of all of her fucking friends and everyone, you know what I mean? So where we have just got them romantically very close together, saved life, first kiss, almost dying together, sharing grief over Kilburn. Now the city's destroyed and she's just like, fuck this shit. So basically it drives her apart from Harlow for a while. But of course they're gonna get it. It'll be okay.
Another near-death experience. It'll be fine.
Yeah, anyway, that's what's going on with them. So basically, at the conclusion of the meeting, I'm kind of either Dirk, and we can talk about it, but either Dirk just sends them off via a submarine to America, or I've also thought that he could be under attack, like a naval attack of some kind, and sends them off, in a submarine as just so they would escape, and then something could happen to Dirk or whatever. But I don't think that's an important part of the story. I just want to get them to America. Now you might go, how come a story set in America is going to end up, or in Australia ends up in America? Well, there's a few monkey wrenches you don't know about. Remember, the chief thing was that I had written this Gary Grant militia thing, and in desperation to get these words into NaNoWriMo, I'm like stealing. I got to the point where I might as well just take the whole plot. All right. So I thought a lot about it, and I think it works really cool. But this is how it works, and you need to know this. We do know that Siska came to or was in Australia as a little girl. But what is revealed to her by Snowden is a few things. One is her sister is in America, so they got to go to America to fulfill their promise to help rescue her sister. Her sister is in, currently, you may not realize this because it's not your bailiwick, but there's a big NSA data server station in Utah somewhere in the middle, like by Salt Lake City. Anyway, out in the desert, they got this big multi-billion-dollar data base, like server farm, where they store all this communication, everyone's emails that they steal, for instance. Not that I give a fuck. But you see what I mean? So I'm using that building. 25 years from now, it's no longer American because America doesn't exist. It's a sub-state of the communist empire. But and of course, the database facility is no longer a database facility. It does something other scientific experiment wise. And we know there's been some pretty horrible science experiments that this government has done, right? And so that sister's been involved in something like that there at that location. So they got to go rescue her. So that's why they're going to America. But there's another interesting part of the story that I may throw in there is that all right, go back to that. I told you to remember it at the time. Remember this bucket and the beach?
Yeah.
That was like their only family vacation at the beach and saw her mother kissing and all that. All right. She thinks took place in this particular national park of Australia right on the beach. I mean, there is one. Really, whatever it is. I just don't remember the name of it. But it really took place in off the coast of Mobile, Alabama. So she's conflated these when she was a young girl. Her sister was kidnapped in America, not Australia. And so I had this struggle. I had to keep them. So I decided instead of because I had to think, well, if Siska was 7, she'd know what the fuck. She knew she came from Australia to America. But if she was 5, she might not. You know what I mean? Anyway, so then I made her sister her twin and kept them the same age so I could push the age lower so her memory could be more malleable for my needs. Okay? So basically, the way it goes, back in the day when she was just a little girl, her dad and mom, her mom's name, I'm not sure if I mentioned her mom's name in a story yet, but her name is Rosie. The reason is that I like every Rosie I've ever met in my life that I've worked with or know. They always seem to be fun people. Not that, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I wrote a vignette story about Rosie, and you'll see it. That was part of Raking Leaves. So basically what happened, and then I'll stop. I'm just trying to get you set up for the kind of material you're going to be reading, all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Back when Siska was a little kid and when her sister was alive, they lived in America. So I don't remember. It wasn't Mississippi. That was just where they went on vacation. But because I went on vacation when I was a little kid, and I remember the white sands of the beach. Anyway, that's all just the memory I'm using for a location. But this is about the time when comedy was taking over the U.S. So there was, there was civil war going on in the U.S. About what you and I might expect happens here in a few years. What would it look like? Trust me, I think we. So, but basically, there was a civil war going on in the U.S. when she was a young girl. Her dad was one of the militia people working with a guy named Gary Grant. Gary Grant was basically the militia cell general. And the funny thing about him is that he was actually related to General Ulysses S. Grant back, 10 generations. That was his little backstory. He's a good guy, computer programmer and all that stuff. So anyway, but his dad was killed in battle, saving lives. It could be the battle I wrote about, and it's tucked in some of your materials somewhere about a guy running around in the woods, basically getting shot at. That could be what happened to her dad, or that could be her dad's story. So I'm just using a piece of something I wrote a long time ago to use as a backstory here, if we want to. At any rate, her dad died saving her and her mother's life. Gary Grant, who was the leader of that militia group at the time, put her and her mom on because he was connected with the Texan, LS and all that stuff, was able to get her and her mom on a quick secret thing out of the U.S. while it's going through that war, and sent them over to Australia just to hide them. Okay, it's kind of like doing her a favor, blah blah blah. You get the idea?
Yeah.
Now, it works. In other words, by sending her to America, I get to really easily use stuff I've written that I can just use again. Otherwise, it'll never see the light of day. Secondly, it does throw, it throws a monkey wrench into the reader's expectation things, but it works. It can be made to work, I really believe, because I have Siska's sister in a experimental lab in Utah. So they're in America. It also is bringing Siska back to roots. Why is she in Utah? Well, that's because I could say, well, she got kidnapped in Australia when she was 5 and ended up in Utah. But I think it would be kind of cool. They were in America anyway. Anyway, to me, it adds an interesting dimension because it'll be a surprise to Siska. Like her uncle will say, we'll confirm it, Yeah, we had to keep it a secret from you all for your own safety, blah, blah, blah. Your mother was going to tell you, and then she died. And I didn't know what to do. And then I left. But yeah, so.
Sure.
That's what gets them back to America. Now, and I'll just give you a brief. In America, they join up with, they're going to attack. They have to attack that base in Utah. So they're going to use the, Melbourne Marauder, a few of the Melbourne Marauders, whoever, all them, Shing Tian, Siska, Harlow. And guess who's coming in to save the day? Jez. Yes. One of the worst things about that book is I love the character Jez, and then I just set her off, and I'm like, God, I got to get her back. She isn't. And so what's going to happen with her is that Snowden is going to send a few emails, messages, through the comedy staffing systems and all that, and he's going to manipulate so that Siska gets on a private, like, Learjet, military Learjet kind of thing, and gets flown straight over there. What do you think? And they need her because she's an expert at Boltzmann neural programming networks, which is somehow involved in her sister's experiments.
It'd be
Right?
cool to see her come back. That'll be
Yeah.
exciting.
We got to have Siska come back. And one of the Harlow guy, one of the Gary Grant's people, the local militia people that are leading a break in to rescue her sister, happens to be a guy named Don Dalton, who was my best friend of all time. He died about 20 years ago. But so I'm naming it after him. But he was this inventor guy. He was just think MacGyver.
Yeah.
By MacGyver.
Mm.
Yeah. So Don Dalton is this like backyard MacGyver sort of guy. And during the battle, anyway, you get so guess who's gonna fall in love?
Siska.
Jezebel and Don Dalton, because she's smart and clever, and he's Mr. Inventor, and they're gonna get along like, yeah. So she's gonna end up. It's gonna have a happy ending for her. You can't have her and Harlow hugging up when it's just sitting there looking at it like, yeah, they used to be me. So she's got to she's gonna have to hook up with somebody too.
Hmm.
Uncle Jay, I haven't thought about anything really, except he might head. And then Harlow and Siska get together and work for LS for any future novel that I'm not going to do. And then there's Jezebel and Dot gets together, and so that's tied. So if you you can think of that kind of stuff, and ultimately they save the day of the sister and head back, work for LS the rest of their lives or whatever. But Comedy Empire is on the ropes. And, maybe someone can do something with the story after that if they want to, but I'm not. I haven't even thought about it after this point. I do have a prequel in mind though, but we don't even have that, which would be real easy to do, and I think would be a good model for the use of the subtext app, just to get it done. But it's just some future idea. Anyway, I'm done for the day.
Okay.
So here's what we got. We finished the book 1 and 2 part of the podcast. So we're looking at continuing this only with the collaborative writing side being discussed. What do you think? Is this I know you're trying to use up your hours.
I'm very excited for the collaborative writing thing. It's not something that I've done before or heard of done very often. So it's going to be really cool and a really unique learning experience for the both of us.
I think so. And, I don't want to be overpowering about it either. I know I'm going to be somewhat but believe me, you come up, I want to see what you can do. And I want you to have a big impact on decision making and all that. We'll just see how it works. It could be a disaster, but I think it'd be interesting. Again, that the guy who does subtext app, I don't know his name off the bat because I haven't talked to him in a while, but I support his work, and I've always told him, you're good, you're really good at taking a movie or a book, and analyzing it and breaking it down and all that stuff. But what people really want is, let's start using it from scratch to plan and write a new book. You never, and it might be there now, but if several years ago, there's very little of that, you know, but that's what they're trying to sell it for. Let's show people how you use it to plan a book. Anyway, I think that'd be worthwhile, but not right now. I mean, it'd take us weeks to learn how to use it. I think. Anyway, all right.
Okay.
So I'll send you those 2 documents, and then just spend some time reading them. When do you want to meet back? I can meet you tomorrow if
Okay.
if you find it helpful to get started at that point. But let's just plan on it, and then, but I'll send you those things, and then you start reading them. I think
Yep.
together
I do.
they could account.
I do work. Sorry. I do work tonight, so it might be tomorrow morning that I get to look at it.
I think it'll take you a lot of hours to read that stuff, like 20 or,
Yeah.
20 or 40. So it's a lot. All right. Well, see you tomorrow then.
All right. See you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Bye.